of subsidy. No, that's why then active, you know, a be ye near ye, na a queer foreign so a dinner crewum. Because I put a you so system, no, baby, how my door a fooling in a wheel. Our menu of Munubano. And Bana was on the comma aggregator and a nuclear farmer. When so no more divert. When say a yin, I'll beat my Toma will be and Tissa a be a fancy cuckoo. Won't you mean no raw? And you no, what me restriction, no great me restriction amount for a small Timbia, we have very strong systems. A debate tightening loopholes, and silly loopholes. Send your bay a farmer, no. Intimate divert. A honor midi here make us.
A ram Matilda I be done so any quantity for penny a wash actually a Department of Agriculture a war Asante Mantemoha. Only you TV in some shop for Kasai.
Ye church remove the whole thing about planting for food and just phase 2 no? From aggregator, then farmer. And also, so that is the distribution of the inputs throughout the value chain of all the products and institutions. It's open for everybody to be part, both commercial and non-commercial. For what can be, make can be, to me a peja ye queer. So, as I say, a funny input seeds in fertilizer and then as a you get it. Into nyawia na utwa wodobaye na wodobaye no mu emfaso na wunyaye no it's to be na obeyi die tua woka no.
NPP amanyokuo abekasa e de afa annual press conference NDC eyoye e de afa yera to forcing na semu a edan court no ho fa ambulance ho na wochiremu a wose wo mpese o mo ye ne se yera no eye minority leader nti na ye twena boso na so ntisa na se ne fiti ase afi 2017 entinya se obeye minority leader nti na obi epese wo ho ne to akonwa Ora Frank Davis chairman legal and constitutional committee na wo this assembly eto eja.
This pressure stems from some warped and baseless logic of the NDC that the Atu Forces prosecution is politically motivated and its leader in parliament should be immune from prosecution, even when the facts indicate conduct resulted in financial loss to the state. As mentioned earlier, investigations commenced as far back as 2017, making it imperative to ask at this stage, why is Atu Forcing, the only government official, being prosecuted from all other former ministers from whom statements were taken? Your guess should equally be good as mine. Clearly, the prosecution is based on the various documentation available from the participating agencies in the transaction, and this is evidenced by the court's ruling upholding that the case has been made by the Attorney General that warrants an answer from the defense. It is also worth noting that the prosecution of Kesela Atu Forcing commenced even before he became minority leader, making it worthless and nonsensical, the suggestion that he is being prosecuted because he's a minority leader in parliament. This logic can only come from the NDC. Ladies and gentlemen, if at all, the only prosecution in this instance is the malicious and perennial dislike of the NDC towards the Attorney General since he assumed office and the several attempts made by the NDC to stultify his work. The records are there clearly to show that right from his appointment as Attorney General, the NDC has spent one of the longest periods in our constitutional vetting system with the hope of impeaching his appointment. But the Attorney General remained resolute to their administration. You all watched the live telecast of his vetting in Parliament, and you saw what the NDC took him through. He survived the storm, and he's still our competent Attorney General. Having failed in all these endeavors, the NDC filed a motion for censure to remove Godfrey Dami from office as Attorney General soon after his appointment, but this also failed. The NDC have since his appointment held over 12 press conferences against the person of the Attorney General. What at all do the NDC want from this young man? The youngest Attorney General the country has ever produced is working in the best interest of the nation. Yet, these people will not let him rest. The latest allegation by Richard Jakpa, the third accused and an associate of Kesela 247 in this botched ambulance procurement transaction, is therefore only a further ploy contrived to curtail the prosecution of Atuforsen and smear the Attorney General's integrity and reputation. But this, I can assure you, will not work. We firmly believe that public officials, regardless of social standing, must be treated equally before the law, and they should be accountable for their use of public resources. Needless to say that the law is no respecter of persons.
Enra NDC amanyokuo no friends and phone shiamu edin sembi to onim se Yera Godfred yeboa odame ya oye Attorney General papai se wohwe ambulance case ya Yera to force na fe Jakpa eho ensem wo mu no a ne niema bi ni su text messages bi ni voice pie no kire se wonye no kwafo enti yenho ne to akonya yenyini yenkona yenkotie ensem kasa.
Controvertible evidence we have adduced today that the government has no evidence of wrongdoing against the minority leader, but is only involved in fabrications to persecute him as retribution for his strong opposition to the economic mismanagement and general misrule of the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government. These damning revelations call into question the integrity of the case of the prosecution in the ongoing ambulance trial and the necessity for sale. Godfrey Dame has brought shame and disrepute to the honorable office of the Attorney General with his criminal, devious, and vicious conduct. He is a danger to fairness and justice in our judicial system and represents the lowest point in the history of persons who have occupied the hallowed office of Attorney General and Minister of Justice. While we have pointed out many times that Godfrey Dame epitomizes all that is inherently wrong, investing both the office of the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice in the same person, we believe that he has recklessly abused both offices and his continuous stay in office is no longer tenable. The primary responsibility of the Attorney General is to be the voice of rule of law, ensure the impartial enforcement of law, and advise the President and government to take actions that conform to law. More importantly, an Attorney General must be a shining example and a leading light for the bar, not a criminal-minded, crooked, devious, and vicious person who is preoccupied with witch hunting and victimization, as has become the cap of honorable or dishonorable Godfrey Dame. Mr. Dame has demonstrated time without number that he cannot prioritize the national interest over his party's parochial and self-serving interests. He must therefore resign or be sacked by the president without delay.
Na NDC din sem wetu dwa se yenho Attorney General to akonya sanse wotimi frefre nkofo se bedi adanse etia Yera to forcing ene niema ekeka ho no MPP nsumpanyimfo e de abetu dwa se Attorney General on resign ne no resign china sanse ne dwumadi a wodie no odi ne totin.
If the Attorney General desired to cajole the third accused as suggested, then the best avenue will have been following the third accused person's request for the AG to propose terms acceptable to him, and the several WhatsApp messages sent to the AG pleading with him. Clearly, the third accused person is a hired mercenary, contracted to exploit his relationship with the Supreme Court judge, knowing the AG's inability to disrespect the said justice when invited after failing to secure a meeting with the AG. All this is against the backdrop that since the Attorney General was appointed into office, he has been arguably one of the most successful both in and out of court. As remarkably noted by the President at the last State of the Nation's address, he has successfully saved the state over 10 trillion Ghanaian cedis And his verve in protecting public resources is shown by his commitment to the prosecution of public officials whose acts have resulted in huge financial loss to the state. This is beside the other several infrastructure and logistical improvements to the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice, including the almost completed Law House. If it is the firm belief of the NDC and Unauthorized that no loss had occasioned the state from its conduct, then they should just remain faithful to our judicial system and cease these malicious orchestrations targeted at bastardizing our judicial system and to prevent him from standing trial to its final conclusion. They should just keep quiet and let the proceedings in court continue. We are very clear in our minds that the cause for the resignation of the Attorney General is misplaced, unwarranted, and this will not put any spokes in the prosecution of KSL Unauthorized and his associates. Ladies and gentlemen, the call for the resignation of the Attorney General coming from the NDC is very, very rich. The NDC calling on the Attorney General to resign from office. That is rich Ghanaians. The AG will not resign. He will continue to remain witty, resolute, and focused in the delivery of his work, as he does always. The wheels of justice, we say, grind slowly, but eventually it will grind to a halt.
Call Alhaji Moro ananso abeto dwase Greater Accra mantam akwan ahodo ayaye ne wo ha no akwan ne akwantempon so afo ebo apro wo so ahwe se de esi eko Alhaji Moro ma han
mejo so
ka say wugina hen na mu fitin ase brebe na mo de kwa awie akwan be ni kwan be na mo hwe ene de aduro
mejo ka say de esi a tuba ewo tobu tutra tobu na wo branch won sa left tobu na waka so akwan no so wo branch won sa left sa akwan no ye frɛ ho tuba junction udu ho a ai ti se so no to na afra kwan ni na ka nko ka ma nti ye ade se de o mo de beto minister of roads and highways and so amra no ma hwɛ kwan no nti ano pe ye bon na no ye ne no minister of roads and highways and Greater Accra regional minister na Gan South MP na ye bae na obadishin taxi drivers and auto drivers or more hono no mo kasa se wa se wo mo ha nyina na nso senia o problem no enye problem a onu kwa betumi asolve nti okwi oni minister of local government ne your friend so be fa yi for so kan forestry department aka ho na omo abehwe na omo si problem na ho na ni say activities na wo eso ho no who say wager who drew that to na people na wo so ho no sa penku fin kan e ko ka so wo sa penku people na ho no nyoma na omo ya da na omo si wo so na asia no na say so to na pia ni hina na ba be gu gota ni nti gota na omo ye kwa na omo ye ni na esi nti say so no to onye da bi fa na ne so be fa kwa no so nti do mo aye ni say no oni local government ministers